One time, what up, peoples? It's time for the Even People Show. You know what I mean? I didn't even check my mic before I got started. I hope y'all can hear me. I just hear rocking out. You know what I mean? Youth Forest, your time. All right, check this. I have a quick show for y'all today, but I'm going to hit some real good points that I'd like y'all to check into. King Selassie, I call you. All right, Kabaka, sit down and relax. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Evening People Show. I'm your host, Mark Matthews, and tonight we're going to be talking about being emotionally stuck. Now, I did cover some aspects of this show in a previous show. That show was actually about something else, but I kind of touched on it. So today we're going to get into it a little bit more. If this is your first time joining the show, hello, I'm your host, Mark. I'm an author. I have a book called Love, Life, Confrontation, Expressions, Selections from the Chronicles of a Black Man. It's a book that's available in Jamaica and Fontana pharmacies. It's available worldwide on Amazon.com. And if you have not yet liked and subscribed to the show, get with it so we can get going. All right. So without further ado, I'm going to get right into it. Everybody checked in, saying my check one. Greetings, my dear. Stacey is checked in. Wait a minute. I'm early at the first, practice makes perfect, my dear. Practice makes perfect. And it's a good day to be early because we're going to get into some shenaniganery about people being emotionally stuck. So check this out. Being emotionally stuck. What are we talking about? What is being emotionally stuck? What is about? Like, what is it? Okay. So for me, emotionally stuck is experience that changes the trajectory of your emotional development. It's an experience that changes the emotional trajectory of your development or changes the trajectory of your emotional development. So it is something that happened that changes the way you developed emotionally. That's being emotionally stuck, or that is at the point that you got emotionally stuck. Okay, it can be the fact that you are immature. Being immature can be a symptom of being emotionally stuck. um Being at an impasse emotionally can be another symptom that you are emotionally stuck. Now, we're going to get into several things here. Well, the first thing we're going to look at is some of the things that actually get people to that point. Let me turn this over a little bit. Some of the things that actually get people to that point where they are emotionally stuck. What are some of these things? Now, let's start from the ground up. Some of them exist, or they come about during your childhood. It is when you have, for example, you could have a missing parent. You could have a missing parent. You could have an abusive parent. And either of these things, like we said, being emotionally stuck is having an experience that changes the trajectory of your emotional development. Okay. And we were saying it could be a missing parent. Parent could have left after you were old enough to know the parent, and that them leaving kind of stunted your emotional development. You could have had an abusive parent, and dealing with that emotion, that abusive parent changed the way you developed emotionally. You could have experienced, and I'm sorry to say that this is actually more prevalent than anybody would like it to be, but you could have experienced molestation. It could be by the hand of a parent, or could it be by the hand of a family member. And having gone through that experience, that could have stunted your emotional development as well. Why does my water taste like this? There's soap in it. Anywho, abandonment is another thing that could have caused or led to you being emotionally stuck. And like I do when I have these kind of shows, I'm trying to give us the framework, trying to give us the framework, trying to get our head wrapped around the concepts that we're dealing with, and then we'll dive into the nitty gritty of it, so to speak. All right. Abandonment. So it is having, if you have a, now you have to constructively work through, okay? We're talking about being emotionally stuck. You have to constructively work through being emotionally stuck before you can become unstuck. All right. You can't just snap your finger and it happens like that. You can't just be reactive to it and file that under you moving forward. No, you can't just keep putting it off and think that that is actually you moving forward. It is not. And I'll give you an example. The example I'm going to give you is, think about this for a second. Do you know someone in your life that is always miserable? It could have been a high school teacher. It could be that miserable lady at church that be pinching children's ears back in the day. It could just be a family member that every time you see them, they're just miserable. They're grumpy. They're always miserable. They're always grumpy. Do you know somebody like that? Always miserable, always grumpy? What if I told you that there's a possibility that this person is emotionally stuck? And the reason that they're always grumpy and they're always snapping at people and they always seem to be in a bad mood is because they're emotionally stuck. It is because at some point during their emotional development, they got hung up on something that they never processed. And it is their reaction to that thing that they got stuck on that makes them miserable all the time. And mind you, it could be something very traumatic. It could be something from childhood. It could be, like we said, a child, being molested. It could be a child that was molested as a child. And because of that, their emotional development got stuck at that point. And after that point, they were just bitter. So now, as an adult, every interaction you have with them, all you get is that bitter response from them. You really never see that person's true self. Lamar Suki Rowe, bless up yourself, my dear. I haven't seen you in the even people showing in a minute. Good to have you. But yeah, think about that person that was just always miserable. And I'm saying there's a possibility that that person was emotionally stuck at some point of their development and never truly processed the thing that got them emotionally stuck. And because of that, they spent the rest of their life reacting to that thing that got them stuck. And because they never actually processed it, they just remained stuck. Okay. So deep stuff indeed. Because here's the thing, when you're talking about emotions, when you're talking about something like this, that people get emotionally stuck, um, it's really simple. It's deep, but it's simple. It's because if you don't process it, it doesn't go away. You have to process it in order for it to go away. And if it's never processed, it just stays. You know what I mean? And it doesn't matter how many years later. It doesn't matter how many years later. You put it off, you sweep it under the rug, you make excuses for it. Or it could be someone. Well, we're gonna get into that other one here that I was gonna give an example of. Um, but how do you get someone out of that if they don't acknowledge it? All right, we're gonna get to that here in a little bit. When we get to the how to identify and how to get past it, we'll get into that. So let's stick a pin right there on that one, and we will get back to that one. All right. So now we were talking about childhood traumas, childhood emotional interruptions that got us stuck. Now let's move on to romantic relationships, right? So we dealt with stuff that they deal with in their childhood. Now we're moving on to stuff that you're dealing with potentially in your adulthood. Okay. You could have romantic abuse, or you could have emotional abuse. Romantic abuse, emotional abuse, and both of those things could get you emotionally stuck. You could be in a toxic relationship. You could be in a toxic relationship that we know what toxic relationships are. It's a relationship where you're with someone that you really just shouldn't be with because y'all just don't, you are just bad for each other. The person could be abusive, the person could be abusive in several different ways. And you stay with them for some reason, and because of that you get emotionally stuck. And even if you have the occasion to be out of the relationship with that person, you are still emotionally stuck. So now the person that you meet after that is still now not getting a true version of you. They're getting the version of you that the other person left traumatized. You know what I mean? Because you are emotionally stuck at that point. All right. So process meaning therapy. Therapy is an option. Therapy is definitely an option. There are also several other behaviors that you could make normal into your everyday process that will help you. But again, that's something we're gonna get into later on. And just stick a pin right there and stay tuned, and we'll get into it. Now, we we through our mom was so miserable until we understood her upbringing. Well, we thought our mom was so miserable and thought we until we understand her upbringing and that she was stuck from a harmful childhood traumas. And lots of us, a lot of people are out there that went through these things. Lots of people are out there that went through these things. And if we don't actually understand them, if they're not able to even verbalize it to us, and most importantly, if they are not even in a position where they have identified that this is actually what is happening to them, if they don't accept it for themselves or know it for themselves, there's no way they're going to point it out to you. There's no way they're going to point it out to you because they don't know or have not acknowledged it for themselves yet. You see what I'm saying? So some of these things really run really deep. But what we're saying is if it is not processed, it lingers. If it is not processed, you could spend the rest of your life responding to it. Now, some of the byproducts, I'm always saying they don't know, Suki saying they don't know. Um, some of the byproducts are violent eruptions, where, like we said, the person is always miserable or they're prone to violent outbursts. It could be violence in case of some males who experience things coming up or some kind of development, and their reaction to situations that requires an emotional response is violence. They get very violent. You know, they're abusive to people because, like we say, hurt people. You know what I mean? Emotional abuse, both women and men. Um, Divorce is another thing that people experience in their adult life that can leave them emotionally stuck. Um, you see someone that is on the rebound and it's like they don't know whether they're coming or going. They're emotionally without a route. They're emotionally in the wind. And you have some people that they become serial daters. They just date people, everybody, anybody. Some of them become like serial other things too. Um, and it is because really they are emotionally untethered. They were rooted at one point, they became emotionally untethered. They did not deal with the fact that they became untethered, and now they're just waving in the wind. It's kind of like those things they have in front of the car dealership when they're having a sale that just keeps blowing in the wind like that. They're just blowing in the wind because they're emotionally untethered. Um, or you could be, like I said in the narrative for the show, you could be at an emotional impasse. You could be at a place that you are so royally confused that you have no idea whether or not you are coming or going. Iconic advisor, always lovely to have you, my dear. You could be at an impasse and be in such an emotional state that you are genuinely stuck. You're emotionally stuck simply because the options that you have on both sides are so, let's say, significant or just so overwhelming to you that you cannot actually make a decision as to which direction you should really go in, and you're emotionally stuck. And this could last for a very long time. Now, we dealt with childhood traumas. We're talking about relationship traumas. You even have this in friendships. You even have this in friendships where you have subtle influences exhibited on you or exerted on you by your friends that lead you in a direction that you really do not want to go in. If you were in high school, it would be the equivalent of peer pressure. Or you could be led down a path by friends, and it leaves you stuck in an emotional state. All right, it's kind of like this. It's kind of like this. Some people, it's almost like they don't develop past a certain point. So you have a group of friends, whether girls or guys, and they were friends in high school, and they just remain friends the rest of their life. But because of that, in spite of how good it is to have true friends, it also becomes problematic because they get emotionally stuck in that high school mentality, and they spend the rest of their lives essentially dealing with high school type things or dealing with things from a high school like mentality, and they're all as a group emotionally stuck without even realizing that they're emotionally stuck. So if you listen to the conversations they have, the conversations they have are high school type conversations. You see what I'm saying? They don't evolve past a certain level. So certain things that they could and should be dealing with, certain things that they could have even accomplished, the fact that they have stayed such a close-knit unit, they don't accomplish because it's almost like their minds are still fixated at that stage of development, and they're emotionally stuck without even realizing they're emotionally stuck. So when they're in a situation where they're supposed to even check each other and tell somebody that, no, my youth, no, my girl, a foolishness that you shouldn't be doing that, they co-sign it because they're still in that space where they feel like if they tell the person the truth, they're going to be ostracized out of the group, and they're more concerned with the group than they are with helping, truly helping the person. And because of that, they're in a stuck emotional state and don't evolve. And sometimes they end up doing the individuals in the group more harm than good because they just don't come clean when they should come clean. Let's get caught up on the I think I saw Barbara Matthews on there. If that's you, Mother Dearest, love you to pieces. What about people who experience childhood trauma that wasn't processed and later experience toxic relationship in adulthood? It's like I think somebody answered that question lower down where they say hurt people, hurt people, hurt people, hurt people. So you have that childhood trauma that you were fixated on and did not process, and because of that, when you are now in a situation, you end up past paying it forward. You end up now abusing someone that you are in charge of because you yourself was abused as a child. You know what I mean? And you, it is because you are, all right. Let's look at this. Let's look at Stockholm syndrome. Stockholm syndrome. If you do not know what Stockholm syndrome is, Stockholm syndrome is something that is developed by someone that is captured. You are captured by someone, whether you're kidnapped or you're a POW and prisoner of war, and you get to the point where your captor has you in such a way that after a while they have tethered your emotions to theirs, and it get to the point where they don't even have to lock you up or chain you up anymore because they make you now feel like you need them in order to live. You understand? So it's like you are suffering at their hand, but in your brain, somehow you got stuck at a point when they started giving you whatever benefits they started giving you after they broke you down. So now you are emotionally tied to them. You understand? So it's like you're in a place where you were so devastated, so broken down that anybody that showed you anything, um, that look a particular way, you'll grasp at it. But it is because your emotional development got stunted at a point that is the only reason you will go for it. You know what I mean? If you were emotionally mature, if you were not emotionally stuck, you wouldn't have the reaction that you have. You see what I'm saying? Now, not working through, like we mentioned before, not working through these things, deflecting them, and just dealing with the byproducts of them or not dealing with the byproducts of them are not actually processing them. You know what I mean? You literally will evolve into being a different person than the person you could have been because you didn't process the thing that you should have processed. Now, so let's do this. Let's look at so let's reevaluate a little bit here. We're talking about emotionally stuck. We're talking about being emotionally stuck. We're saying they are mentally or emotionally living in the past and cannot let go of something that happened in order to be happy in the present. So we gave a different definition earlier. I'm kind of tweaking that definition so you can look at it from a different perspective here with me. And it is emotionally stuck is mentally or emotionally living in the past, cannot let go of the things that happened in the past in order to be happy in the present, right? Now, we're going to look at some signs that can tell you that you are emotionally stuck. Now, one of the signs, and none of these are the end all be all, these are just some signs, yeah? One of them is being nostalgic and always reminiscing about how things used to be and wishing they were that way. Being always nostalgic and reminiscing on how things was and wishing they were like that. This could, not always, this could be a sign that you are emotionally stuck. You are stuck at a point where you coulda, woulda, shoulda, you wish things were, or how they used to be, and now they're not. And you are stuck at that point and refuse to move on and cannot move on because you have not processed the fact that something back there was not as glamorous as you remember it in your head. You got stuck there, and as a result, you cannot move forward. That's a sign that you're emotionally stuck. Another sign is you can't move on past mistakes and you keep blaming yourself. So it could be something that you did, whether good or bad, that got you emotionally stuck. It could be that you trusted someone you shouldn't have trusted and got hurt. It could be that you yourself, because you're a hurt person, hurt someone else and you got stuck at that point, right? And you can't move on past it because you can't forgive yourself, or you keep blaming yourself for something that really is not your fault. Seems that I am. Oh boy. Oh boy. All right, well, stay tuned. Hopefully, we cover something when we start dealing with the things you can do, how to let go and move on. Hopefully, we cover something that can help you. Another reason, which we mentioned before, is you becoming bitter or holding a grudge. You becoming bitter or holding a grudge. And like we said, everybody knows somebody that is just always miserable. They are just always miserable. All of us know somebody like that. And that, what I'm saying is, sometimes these people that you come across that are always miserable because they are emotionally stuck on something. They got hurt at some point. They're emotionally stuck at that point and they never processed it. And now they're just bitter towards everybody. Right? Those are symptoms, that's a sign that you could potentially be emotionally stuck. Another sign is that you have regrets, or wishing you did things differently. And mind you, you could have regret about anything. What we're talking about being emotionally stuck as it relates to having regrets or wishing you could have done things differently is that whatever that thing is so significant or was so significant to you that it holds you at that point. It holds you at that point. Now, I have or always callous. That's another thing too. They're always upset or they're always callous. That's another symptom that they're emotionally stuck. Anytime you deal with them, you get the grumpy version of them because of some reason they are stuck at that point. You know what I mean? Now, I the regret that I'm talking about that we had moved on to, wishing you had done things differently. I had two friends of mine. I had two friends of mine. They're two friends, two male friends, always hanging out together, always at each other's house. This one was that one's best man. That one was this one's best man. This one is that one's kid's godfather. That one is this one's kid's godfather. And one of them went by the other one's house one day, um, brought the kid inside, closed the door, didn't see that the kid came out the door, reversed the car out of the garage, and backed over the kid. Now the guy literally killed his best friend's child, his godson, and he was emotionally stuck at that point for as long as I knew him. He could not get past it. He wished he had done everything that entire day differently, right? And something as tragic as that, and it doesn't even have to be as tragic as that. Something can get you stuck at that point that is almost like every morning you wake up is what you see. Every night before you go to bed is what you see. And because of it, your whole personality now becomes shaped from that experience. So whatever emotional development trajectory you were on has now been diverted because of that event. You see what I'm saying? And you become, and if you don't actually seek help if necessary and process that through, you can be stuck at that point forever. Um, that is horrible, Stacey. And you're preaching now. Oh boy. I never meant to preach. I never meant to preach at all. Let me take stock of myself and wheel and come again. Now, holding on to old items, we are talking about signs that you could potentially be emotionally stuck. Holding on to old items after they are broken or spoiled. Holding on to old items after they are broken or spoiled. You're no longer with the person is no longer around, and the gift that they're giving you, you hold on to it, or the this or the that has tethered you to that point. You're holding on to it and you refuse to let it go. And God forbid anybody touch it or move it or anything happens to it, you're going to eat your head off because you are tethered to it emotionally. You are stuck to it emotionally and you are stuck at that point. Now, or you keep reliving a trauma or a traumatic event even when it's not happening. This is what PTSD is all about. You're reliving a traumatic event even when that traumatic event is not happening. Now, just to break it down so you see what I'm getting at, it could be where you're in a relationship with somebody that just loves the hell out of you. They just love you, but you have a commitment issue because of a past experience that you have. And because of that, things that the person that you're now with does, you always suspicious of it. You're always suspect. They come home and bring you something or do something nice. You're wondering, what did he do? What did she do? Why are they doing this? Blah, 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 blah. Or you overthink everything that the person does, all because a past trauma that you had in a relationship, you have not actually processed it. And because of that, you are now bringing that to bear on everything that happens in this relationship. You see what I'm saying? You are still stuck in the past. You keep reliving a traumatic experience, even though it has nothing to do with what is happening now. Right? Now, another sign is change terrifies you. Anything change related just terrifies the crap out of you, unnecessary and beyond what makes reasonable sense. I think there's soap in my cup. My good water tastes like soap. There are particles in it. Somebody spiked my water. Anywho, do you have no plans for the future because you can't see the future because you're stuck where you are now? You always compare the present to the past because you're still stuck in the past, or you have low self-esteem or self-defeating belief in yourself that have deep roots. Now, that one I wanna stop on for a little bit. You're emotionally stuck because you have, and as a result, you have low self-esteem or self-defeating beliefs. Now, let me tell you what that looks like. That looks like you say the low self-esteem, and you have the low self-esteem because it could be anything. It could be something as simple as the fact that you were the darkest. I'm gonna give you an example from my own background. You were the darkest child in the family, and because you were the darkest child in the family in the yard, you got treated differently. The lighter skin or complexion children got treated differently, and because of that, you develop low self-esteem, right? And even in your adulthood, even though you accomplish stuff, even though you are accomplished, you still bleach your face, for example, or you still do, you still are just not as confident as you can be or as you should be based on what you have accomplished, because you're still stuck somewhere in the mind in your mind you're not good enough because of the fact that you're darker than. You see what I'm saying? And that is planted so deeply and so rooted in your being that it really changes the trajectory of who you are because of how you perceive yourself, because of how you were treated, simply because of your outward appearance. Or it could be any other little thing that made you different from everybody else around you. And because of that thing, some people used to suck them finger back in the day and them teeth kind of buff, or them start go bald when them young, or them start go gray early or something. That just make you so self-conscious that it's dysfunctional, right? And because of that, it makes you have some kind of low self-esteem, and you cannot see yourself without seeing that first. It's almost like you have that thing on your face like a pair of shades, and everything you see through those lens, and you can't see you for you. And because of that, you are emotionally stuck in that place that you are at. Right now, I might have sounded like I was preaching right then, but I'm done now. Now, how do you let go? How do you move on? How do you get your place out of this emotional stuckness? How do you get yourself from out of this emotional quicksand, this point that you have been stuck in? What do you do? One thing you could do is own your mistakes and forgive yourself. Own your mistakes and forgive yourself. I remember I did a show back in the past, and I said the show was called "It's Okay to Say No." It is okay to say no. It is also okay to forgive yourself. And when you forgive yourself, some of the things that you're saying, that you were saying yes to because you felt guilty or because you were emotionally stuck, maybe you really should have been saying no to them. And vice versa. Maybe some of the things that you were saying no to because you were always locked up and so tight about everything, you could have said yes to. You could have been emotionally stuck because of a trauma you experienced in your life at the hand of someone that potentially abused you. And because of that, you cannot have a functional adult relationship because you're still emotionally stuck there. But if you process it, you might be able to give yourself a chance. You know what I mean? You could have suffered something at the hands of someone and you blamed yourself for having experienced it. You need to forgive yourself so you can move on from it. All right. Then by saying, but isn't some of this accepting a new normal? Do we really have to try to get back um, to who we were before? No, you don't have to. It is okay to evolve. Evolution is definitely okay. Evolution is definitely okay. What we're saying is that you have to find a way forward. And if the way forward requires you to go back and unravel what you tied yourself to back there, then that's what needs to be done. But if moving forward means you evolve out of the state that you get stuck in, then an evolution absolutely is what is necessary. Tanya is saying, is that therapy? And greetings, Tanya, nice to have you. It can potentially be therapy. If it can be therapy, therapy can be the thing that is needed. It can be therapy. It doesn't have to be therapy, but it has to be something that helps you work through the problem. It cannot be something that assists you in deflecting because you've already been deflecting. It cannot be something that helps you wallow in the state that you're in. It has to be something that helps you go through and process. And by all means, if therapy is in fact what you need, then get it, because being emotionally stuck does you no favors, and typically it doesn't do the people around you any favors anyway, because now you are a byproduct of that state that you are in, as opposed to who you can be or who you are as a person. You see what I'm saying? Now, another thing you could do is get rid of the old stuff. One of the examples we said that could be a sign is that you're holding on to things of the past when you should have dashed them a long time. Get rid of them. Get rid of that thing that ties you to that person. Get rid of that thing that ties you to that place and time that really serves no purpose anymore. Get rid of it. You need to evolve past it. You need to let it go. You need to move on. Get rid of it. Seeing it there every day is not going to help. Toss it, light it, throw it in the garbage and move on. Let me see what Tanya is saying. Agreeing with acknowledging that something. Yes, I agree. Something. Yes. You see, here's the thing. Um, we any one of us can get emotionally stuck. Any one of us can get emotionally stuck. It can be for a long period of time. It can be for a short period of time. Sometimes it's just a hard decision that we have to make. One of the things we mentioned earlier is when you're just at an impasse. You're at an impasse in your mind, and you're so torn between two decisions that you get stuck. You really don't know which way to go. You see what I'm saying? The what we're advocating is that being in that stuck situation. First, if you identify it, then you can change it. But what you do, the thing you do not want to do is to start deflect it, sweep it under the rug, and you now allow yourself to become a byproduct of it. These are the things you want to avoid. These are the things you want to take steps to make sure that you're not. CCN is saying, I think I might be stuck to a point, but I'm not sure I want to get unstuck. And Stacey, that right there is one of the reasons we get stuck in the first place sometimes. Is because we are not sure we want to get unstuck. Especially, we talked about the childhood ones, we talked about the romantic or emotional ones. Those are the ones that a lot of times we get stuck to, that we really don't want to get unstuck from, even though we know that it is potentially unhealthy for us, even though we know that sometimes it is not ideally where we want to be, even when we know that sometimes we can find better options. You know what I mean? But sometimes it's that we have a lot, because you must understand too, a lot of these things, a lot of how we deal with it, a lot of what we think is okay, a lot of what we think we should do, is a lot of times shaped by society and how society sees things, and what society believes to be okay, not okay, deems acceptable, deems not acceptable. Right? So some of the time we don't really want to break the mold, even though breaking the mold is what is necessary to get us whole. You see what I'm saying? Um, but sometimes we really have to look, we have to be a little selfish sometimes. We actually have to put ourselves first a little bit sometimes and ask, is this the thing that I need to be whole? We have to be honest with ourselves. We have to look ourselves in the mirror if necessary and tell ourselves the honest truth. Is this what we need to actually move forward? And if that person might not like it, and this person might not like it, and that person might even get hurt, but it's our truth. Sometimes we have to live our truth irrespective of. Tanya is saying childhood and emotional trauma are damaging to our conduct. Absolutely. One of the examples we gave was of somebody that is in a relationship and really can't be in a relationship, or somebody that was just so miserable all the time because of something that they experienced, never processed, and as a result, they are now responding to in every other aspect of their lives. You know what I mean? Um, Another thing you have to do, you have to let go of grudges. You have to let go of the grudges. You have to let go of them. And when I say let go, I mean let go. You can't just say the words, you have to actually do it, because if it is still in you and it is still impacting your behavior, it is still impacting upon you, you are still holding on to it. When you let it go, you actually let it go. And sometimes these things get us emotionally stuck, and we end up responding to it all the time. You know what I mean? You were in a relationship with somebody however long ago, and all the relationships you've had since that time have failed because of the same reason, because you're still tethered all the way back there to that person where you should have let go a long time ago. Whatever grudge, whatever thing you had with them, you really should have let it go. You haven't, and because you have not let it go, you are bringing it with you into every other relationship you go into, and are sometimes destroying those relationships because you're stuck in a previous relationship, or stuck in the emotional state that that relationship put you in, and because you didn't process it, you get stuck there. CC, you say, I find myself becoming extremely antisocial, but I think it's more peaceful just not dealing with people. And sometimes that can be a way out, but it's a momentary way out, and it's not a solution. It's actually sweeping it under the rug. It's actually sweeping it under the rug so you don't have to deal with it. So because if I'm around people and I know I'm going to be required to be more than silent, and I can't really do that, so I just leave. It's sweeping it under the rug. What you actually need to do is process that thing that you're stuck on, and after you've processed it, then being out and being around people which is truly who you are won't be hard. Because think about it, the fact that you want to be alone, that's not you, that's not who you are, that's not how your personality is. So you are essentially stifling you because you are stuck at that point. What you need to do is process it so that you can reclaim yourself, forgive the grudge, forgive yourself, forgive the person that needs to be forgiven, and move on. Then he's saying, um, is that a soul tie? Um, Potentially, but is that a thing? And what is that exactly? You know what I mean? And I'm saying that to say that a soul tie is as much of a tie as you want it to be. You see what I'm saying? A soul tie is as much of a tie as you want it to be. And if it is a tie that is destructive or dysfunctional, it's not something that you want to be tied to unless you're just a glutton of a punishment. And what you really need to do is find a way to process and move away from. You see what I'm saying? It is because here's what happened. I talked about this in a previous show, and I was talking about people that are ready for love, are ready emotionally, or think that they're ready. So they did the whole high school thing and they aced it. They did the whole college thing and they aced it. They come out now, they don't have any attachments per se. They have a career, they're successful, they're working a job, and in their mind now it is time for them to go meet a husband, meet a wife, get married, have a kid, and they do just that, right? But really, because they were ready, and that readiness state that they were in is what led them to the person they got led to, and the person wasn't really the person that they were supposed to be with. You see what I'm saying? And because of that, they can't let go, they can't realize or can't come to the realization that this was actually not the person that I was supposed to be with. And even years after being married and from the outside looking in are happily married, and them on the inside know that this is not where they want to be, they still hold on to the facade. You see what I'm saying? Because the facade looks good. And they cannot come to terms with the sense that they, as an intelligent, educated, sophisticated man or woman, ended up making such a epic of a bad decision. And so they stay in the situation, even though the only thing tethering them there is that they're emotionally stuck there. And they can't forgive themselves for the decision they make. They can't let go of the grudges associated with it. And they refuse to evolve from it. Or some aspect of it is holding them to it and they refuse to let it go. But it's the readiness state that they were in at the time. It's not really the suitability of the person that they ended up with. But because of that, they still can't let it go. What if you just let go the people who cause it, if that is what's necessary? That could be what is necessary. Or it could be you have people who have conversations that they should have with other people, and they're around the people every day for years and years and years and don't have the conversation. And they allow the person to subtly impose their own will onto them and don't say what should be said, and essentially stay there and suffer in silence when they should have said so much along the way and just didn't say it. You see what I'm saying? So if it is a person, a place, or a thing that needs to get let go of, because here's the thing, here's the bottom line. You owe it to yourself. You owe it to yourself to be happy. You owe it to yourself to be free. You owe it for yourself to be emotionally unstuck. You owe it for yourself to be emotionally however you want to be. And anything or anyone that is keeping you stuck, you owe it to yourself to free yourself from it. You see what I'm saying? If nothing else, you owe it to yourself to free yourself from it. Why do you have to be the one that has to suffer? Why do you have to be the one that has to make the compromises? Why aren't you the one that is truly embracing all that you can be, all that you are from an emotional standpoint, and experiencing all that you can experience emotionally? Because you insist on being tethered to someone or something that you really shouldn't be tethered to, and the person certainly don't feel the same way you do. So what exactly are you doing, and why are you doing it? What exactly are you doing? Why are you doing it? You know what I mean? All right, let's get wrapped up here. Learn to live in the present is one thing. I got a witness up in here. You see somebody say I was preaching, we might have altar call because I have witnesses. Everybody come to the altar and bow their heads. Um, learn to live in the present. Practice gratitude are some of the things that you can do to help you. Practice gratitude. Learn to live in the present. Learn to live in the now. Let go of that thing back there that you're holding on to, man. And be grateful of what you have. Yes, it's not what you had. No, it's not what you wish you had. But how about you practice gratitude what you actually have, and value it for what it is valued. You know what I mean? Even though it is not what you wish it had been, but it's still valuable, and value it for that. Practice gratitude, and seek help. Seek help if necessary. Seek professional help. Get the therapy. Speak to someone you can trust. Speak to someone that can give you an unbiased, objective perspective on things. Speak to someone that has your well-being, your ultimate well-being at heart, and get some help. And if you need to take up a hobby to help you do that, do that. Write poetry. That's the thing I do. Sing, dance, whatever helps you process. Any medium really that enables you to constructively express the emotion that you are stuck on. Embrace that. Any medium that enables you, I should say any constructive medium that enables you to constructively get past the thing you're stuck on. Go for it. Reacting to and avoiding is not processing. It's just reacting to and avoiding. Like I mentioned, sweeping under the rug is not avoiding. Locking yourself up in another room is not processing. Is all avoiding. Um, like I mentioned, this came up actually. This is one of the last points I had, but I actually mentioned it in response to a comment here. Stuck people are not true to themselves. Don't let them win. Don't let anybody that's seeking to hold you down win. Put it this way. The example I use is a car wash. Picture you going to the car wash. Your car is dirty. You want to go and get your car wet, but your car is dirty. You want to get your car clean, but you don't want to get the car wet. So you're at the car wash thinking, I don't want to get the car wet, but I want to get the car clean. How exactly is that going to work? You don't want to drive the car through the car wash, or you don't want to get the car wet. It doesn't work like that. Point is, you have to go through the process if you want the result at the other side. You have to go through the process, right? You can't just stand up wanting what the other side is supposed to bring and not willing to go through the process. And let go of the people that hold you. I think we mentioned that too in a response to a question. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I appreciate y'all checking in. I appreciate y'all staying tuned. I hope something said can help someone out there, because being emotionally stuck is real. Being emotionally stuck have robbed people of years of their life that they spent deflecting instead of living. Do not allow being emotionally stuck to rob you of another day. Start putting the plan in place now. Start identifying where you got emotionally stuck, and get a plan in place that is going to get you emotionally unstuck and can help you live your best life. Now, I mean, I should have studied psychology in school, mate. Where do I get these things? That sounded good if I say so myself. My British accent came out. Maybe it's all the soap I drinking my water. But I'm going to read a poem for you before we bounce. The poem I'm going to read for you, we talked about being at an impasse. We talked about being at an impasse, and that being at an impasse is a feature of being emotionally stuck. Yeah. The poem I'm going to read is actually The Lion. And the lion, I never looked at in this way before, but the lion actually depicts someone, or can depict someone, that is emotionally stuck in a real way. The lion is depicting someone that is so emotionally stuck that they cannot identify themselves. They are literally looking in the mirror and cannot tell who they are. They're looking in the mirror and can't tell if I'm a man or a lion. You see what I'm saying? And they're both figuratively, of course, but It depicts somebody that is so emotionally stuck that they cannot see the light at the end of the tunnel. They can't see the way up from down. They don't know where they are. They are stuck. And the poem is called The Lion. It is on a book. And let's get to it. The lion says, I was walking by the mirror when I saw him, like a flicker of light in the corner of my eye, so I looked. But he was gone. So I turned and walked away, but like a shadow, the feeling stayed, ever present in the shade, like a decision already made. He always rises to the cause. His presence always gives me pause. I anticipated his return. He's like a lesson I have to learn. He thinks I've been offended. He perceives it his duty to defend it. My futile attempt to resist his hold, his consciousness rising like a Spartan sword. I'm drawn to the mirror again. I see him now. Hello, old friend. 1 year, 4 months, 3 days, I can feel his latent rage. The inevitability of his control. Bruce Banner is gone, now the Hulk roars. Why should I contain this reckless bliss? He's part of me, my Egyptian Sphinx. Torn apart like Django's chains, a parasitic element seeking to reign. Cheap thrills at will like a crime spree. In his mind, he's trying to free me. My molecular chaperone is he, both possessing the same properties. Our intentions at a total impasse. I see his logic, but I can't take the chance. A few rounds in the ring like Fight Club. He spikes my adrenaline like a light bulb. Will this erupting struggle be my life? Can I surgically remove him with a knife? Am I him? Is he me? Who came first? Amputated from him, what could be worse? A fluent solvent are we, he is I, and I am he. The lion. And that was it. And like we said, and like we've been talking about, the lion depicts somebody that is at a legitimate impasse. It's almost like somebody that is borderline dealing with a split personality almost. They are so stuck at a point that they can't tell themselves from themselves. You know what I mean? There are inferences that are drawn in here that says, like, the inevitability of his control. Bruce Banner is gone now, the Hulk roars. Bruce Banner is the doctor. Hulk is the monster that evolves out of him. You know what I mean? It talks about why should I contain this reckless bliss? He's part of me, my Egyptian Sphinx. An Egyptian Sphinx is a part man, part lion, deity from back in Egyptian days, right? It talks about a parasitic element seeking to reign. A parasitic element seeking to reign. That means that there's that thing in you, on you, that is now seeking to take over the being that it's living on. I remember growing up as a kid, they had these things they call wild pine that used to grow on trees. It's a parasite. It lives on the tree, right? And it's almost like that thing that lives on the tree is seeking to take over the tree. It's not supposed to work that way, but it's almost like you are so upside down in your head. You are so upside down in your head that you don't know which way is up anymore. It's almost like that little thing, that point that you are emotionally stuck on is threatening to upstir your entire life. You are upside down. You are upside down. You have allowed a time and a place and a thing and an experience to hold you to a point and has got you emotionally stuck, and you are like, excuse me, it says, you know, am I him? Is he me? Who came first? Amputated from him, what could be worse? It's like, what am I going to do? How do I get rid of this? How do I move on? How do I get past this impasse? Is what the lion is saying. I'm stuck here. This thing has become a part of me. This thing that I have allowed myself, or that I have become stuck on, is now so much a part of me that I can't tell myself separate from it. I'm stuck to it. It's me now. I look in the mirror. I thought I got rid of it. Listen to how the poem starts. The poem starts off by saying, I was walking by the mirror when I saw him, like a flicker of light in the corner of my eye, but I looked, but he was gone. So it's almost like you thought this person is at a point where they thought they had gotten rid of it. They thought they had become emotionally unstuck. And then he says, I was walking by the mirror when I saw him. So it's almost like you thought you had gone, you thought you were on the mend. But you realize that you're at a point now that, oh my God, I'm still not unstuck. There he is. I'm looking in the mirror. Another line says, I was drawn to the mirror again. I see him now. Hello, old friend. 1 year, 4 months, 3 days. I can feel his latest rage. So it's almost like you thought he was gone. You thought you had moved on. And something happened that got you drawn back in again, that got you back to that stuck point again. So being unstuck is not easy. Coming unstuck is not easy. What I'm saying is take the first step today. Take the first step today, because you cannot remain emotionally stuck all your life. And it's going to be a challenge. But if you don't move, you're going to remain stuck forever. If you don't move, you're going to remain stuck forever. Parasitic. I understand being there. Yep. It happens to real people. If real things happen to real people in real life, is a saying I say all the time. You even read it differently this time around. So many interpretations of this poem, man. You see what I'm saying? Poetry be like that sometimes. It takes work to free yourself. Yes, it does. It does take work. The thing says literally, like, should I surgically remove it with a knife? is what the poem says. Can I surgically remove it with a knife? It is stuck to you. It's gonna take some work. The thing is on you. It is in you. It is in your head. It is in your heart. But it is not doing anyway. It is not doing you any good. You need to get rid of it. You need to get rid of it. You need to free yourself from it. You need to get yourself emotionally unstuck, because you are currently emotionally stuck. Ladies and gentlemen, you've been watching the Evening People Show. And I could keep going, but nah. Yeah, I get it. If you have not liked and subscribed, like and subscribe so that you get the notifications. Send the comments. A lot of good shows in the history. Go to the YouTube channel. Scroll down, look at the topic that sounds interesting, and check it out. We've covered a lot of good stuff on the show here as it relates to people and things that affect real people in real life, right? That's what we try to do here on the Evening People Show. And if you don't know, now you know. I'm your host, Martin Matthews. Until next time, take care. All right, peace.